All right, it's high time we talked about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart, and it's been bothering me for some time now. Grammar. Specifically, it's time to talk about this phrase, you and I. I think a lot of you think that you're using it properly, but I don't think it means what you think it means. You see, when it's at the beginning of a sentence, you and I is great. It's the subject. And it sounds great. That's the correct way to use it. But when you put it at the end of a sentence, that's when we start to have a problem. Well, let me explain. We're going to look at two examples, okay? The first one, you and I can taste the cake. We're the subject. Sounds great, looks great, no problems. Now we come to the second sentence, where I then put us at the end. Watch how it goes. The cake was cut by you and I. Is that correct? It's not correct. Let me show you the best way that you can remember how this is supposed to go. It should say the cake was cut by you and me. And you're thinking, no, I was always taught you and I, you and I. No, I'm afraid that you were taught correctly when you're at the beginning and the subject of the sentence, but not when you're at the end. Here's an easy way to remember it. When you're trying to figure out which to use, which pronoun to use, you're going to then separate. If there's two people, you're going to separate it. So this is our first separation. The first person doing the cutting was you. So the cake was cut by you. That is correct. So we know that you, when we used it in the other sentence where it said you and I, we know that the you is correct. So that's not our problem. Now let's break apart the other one. Does this sound right? When you break apart the two people that are doing that action, it has to sound right. The cake was cut by I? No, I don't think so. Now doesn't this look and sound much better? The cake was cut by me? I think so. So all you need to remember is, if you were to break it apart and do each one separately, is it correct? And if you're gonna look at that sentence and say the cake was cut by I, you're gonna know right off the bat, that's not correct. So you would never say the cake was cut by you and I. It just doesn't make sense. So please, when you think you're being grammatically correct by saying you and I or he and I, make sure that you're breaking the sentence apart, and however you would do it for just one of those, that's how you do it for both. Let me show you another example that's been troubling for me. The next example I'm going to show you is when you're talking about two people who have ownership or who possess something. So this, we're just going to use a very basic example. And before I show you this, I hope you know that this is the incorrect way to say the sentence, but I will also tell you, I have heard, I don't know how many people actually say it this way. It hurt me to write this. He in my house is white. Why do I have to tell people that this isn't correct? Let's break it down. If I take away the second person doing the action and leave it how it was, is this how we would say the sentence? He house is white? Don't think so. We try the other one. Would we say my's house is white? Yeah, so one thing we need to get straight, my's, M-Y'-S, that's not a word. So let's stop using that like 10 years ago, please. That is not a word. We would never say my's house is white. Let's see how the sentence should be written. And all is right with the world once again. This is how you would write it. And it's so easy to know why you would write it this way. His and my house is white. The reason you would write it this way is if you cover up that part, if you cover up that, his house is white, yep, that makes sense. And then if you cover this up, my house is white, yep. So all you have to do is add those two things together. His and my house is white. It's so easy. I know you guys can do this. We're gonna do one more example that kind of takes these two things that we've learned and it mushes them right together. Again, this like hurts my heart to have to write this out incorrectly. But again, I've heard it said this way. Oh my goodness. Okay. It's like, public schools have failed people. This is another way I have seen a possessive sentence where the subject is two people. I have heard somebody say the name, Sam or whoever's name, and I's car is big. Sam and I. Because again, they think because it's at the beginning of the sentence and they always were taught in school, you have to, what is the subject of the sentence? You have to say so-and-so and I. Well, that's not always right. That's not always right. And again, eyes is not a word unless you're talking about two balls in your head. I apostrophe S is not a word. You would not say Sam and I's car is big. Because look, if I cover this up, Sam car is big? Nope, doesn't make sense. What about this? I's car is big? No, it doesn't make sense. So how should it be written? Once again, all is right with the world. How do we know this is correct? Because if you were to cover up one or the other, the sentence would stand on its own. So if I cover up and my, it's going to say Sam's car is big. If I cover up the Sam's and, it's going to say my car is big. That's how I know that I'm saying it correctly or writing it if it's a paper. Sam's and my car is big. Now, of course, this sentence might just be easier to say our, but for some reason, if you need to be specific, this is how you have to do it. Thank you so much for sticking around for this video. And I would appreciate it even more if you would think before you speak. And don't forget, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. Psalm 14:1. Don't be a fool. Have a great day, everybody.